Okay, this is a really cool story. I met up with a former student of mine, a student who had just graduated high school in June, in the city where I teach, because he had painted a mural in the city. He was due to receive a mayoral citation for it, and he wanted to share it with me. So we're talking, and he's showing me his mural, and then he walks me to my car. As we're walking to my car, he starts saying to me, well, I have this friend who wants to be a photographer, and I know a professional photographer, so I did that thing that you're always doing. And I'm like, what thing? And he goes, well, I introduced him to the photographer, and I gave the photographer a great recommendation and told him how talented my friend was at taking pictures. And I'm like, okay, that's really nice that you did that, but what's that thing I'm always doing? And he goes, oh, well, you do that all the time. Every time, you bring us anywhere, you're always introducing us to people. And if you see somebody who you think should know somebody else, you're always connecting two people together. You're always making sure that, you're always saying, oh, there's somebody I really want you to meet, or hey, I know this person who, and connecting people together. You do that all the time. So I've been watching you do it for 2 years, and now I've started doing it. And I was just like, oh, okay. And I said to him, well, there's this entire website that's based on that. It's a social media website, but it's basically just for jobs. It's called LinkedIn. And basically the idea is that there's only 6 degrees of separation between you and anybody else in the world. And that when you meet a new person, if you talk to each other long enough, you're going to figure out somebody you both know, or something you have in common, some other person you have in common. And I was curious about the concept of 6 degrees of separation years ago. And it led me to a book called The Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell. And I'm explaining this to this 18-year-old. And he said that actually it's a misconception, the whole 6 degrees of separation. The whole system would break down if it weren't for this specific type of person called a connector. And connectors are people who go out of their way to put people together who would be useful to one another. And that it's mainly because of a few connectors that the whole world is networked like that. And, connectors, it's a very intentional thing. You go out of your way to put people together who might be useful to each other. You don't do it for selfish reasons. You just do it because you care about people. And I said, ever since I read that book, The Tipping Point, I've thought to myself, well, I could be a connector, and I've gone out of my way to do that, but it never occurred to me that anyone else would notice that I did this. And he goes, well, yeah, I've noticed, and I saw how useful it was, so I've intentionally started doing it myself. So an interesting lesson about this is that, our students, I was his art teacher. I was teaching him animation and digital art, and I spent a lot of time helping him with his portfolio and stuff. But when we teach students, they're not just learning from us the content that we're teaching. They're learning from our whole personalities. And I didn't even realize that he knew this about me, or that it was something that was very obvious about me. He made a specific reference to, remember when you took us on that field trip to that college, and you kept introducing us to different people, and you seemed to know all these different people. And I actually have no memory of doing that, I guess because it's something that I just automatically do all the time. But how cool is it that this student noticed that about me, thought it was a useful character trait, and chose to adopt it himself. And how very valuable that I happen to have read the book The Tipping Point, which gave a detailed analysis of what social networking is and how it works. So, I never in a million years realized I was teaching that while I was teaching digital art.